It took less than 2 days for Liam to hike out into the savage forest and find the site that changed his life. The imminent threat of the locals, coupled with the venomous wildlife and murky climate, provided for a less than pleasurable trip. No one else on Earth knew where he was, just mud clogged under his boots and the dew drops dripping on his nose from the myrtle tree leaves above. The twisting and turning of the rainforest resembled the snake-like roots on the deep greenery encompassing him. The moist, insect-infested air was thick and humid on his skin as he trudged back over the steps he had taken not so long ago. He found the rock, the blood-stained grounds of the tribal ceremonies, a place where grass and weeds refused to grow, like even they were trying to escape it. The earth around the stone was discolored with the darkness of gore and rot, and the soil seemed to be singed as if simmering on a stovetop. Liam moved the boulder that served as an altar with the collapsible jack he'd carried in his backpack, revealing a crude staircase leading into the earth. The steps were chipped from the bedrock like an unfinished excavation and trailed into the darkness beneath, leaving the surface world and any safety it had behind. Liam wasted no time thinking twice. He ventured down so far that the sunlight that managed to break through the trees could no longer reach him. The spiraling stairs, uneven and bony, resembled pebbles under a riverbed, except that there was no moisture here, no dripping sounds from the cave-like walls or muddiness underfoot. Strange that the underground of a rainforest would be so void of nutrients, unless you knew what lay ahead. Eventually, Liam came to a room far beneath the light above. It seemed like hours since he'd seen the day. Now he felt the familiar glow torches overtake his flashlight. Someone had to be down here. He drew his Glock and cleared carefully, but what he found was not what he expected. It was empty. No other passageways, no hidden corners, not even so much as an earthworm. Just a barren room with a candle sitting on the floor. At the other end of the room was an iron door, medieval in nature. It was pinned and welded into the arching stone around it, sealed like the extravagant entrance to an abandoned cathedral. There were words engraved into the iron with an elaborate font. Not Spanish, but definitely some variant of Latin. The lone candle was lit in front of the passageway like a mini guardian. It burned furiously, lighting up the whole cave with the heat of a campfire, yet the wax on its neck wasn't melting. Liam watched it for a moment in awe. It was as if it could burn forever. Liam examined the wick and the stick, photographing each angle individually. He centered on the endless flame with his recordings, sure that he'd been watching long enough for at least one drop of wax to come slipping down the side. But it didn't. Liam took dust samples from the ground, along with a scrape of the unending candle wax. He took out his canteen and filled the cap with a few ounces of water, before pouring it over the wick on the center flame. His suspicions were confirmed when the candle's heat was unfazed, ignoring the water like a minor inconvenience. He documented the clay-like writing above the door and noticed there was no handle, no lock, no way of opening it. At least not from this side. He took out his Latin dictionary and roughly translated the lettering. The ancient text read a simple yet cryptic message that only added to the imperium of the door. He had all he needed. The next week, Liam had brought his findings stateside along with his rekindled hope of answers. Most would have felt uncomfortable even conversing about the subjects he'd been buried in lately, and he could only imagine what someone might feel if they stumbled upon his findings. But for him, it was encouragement. It was like playing hide and seek. The harder it felt, the closer he was to finding the truth. Still, he couldn't begin to understand it all, but he did know someone who might.
Well, Mr. Liam, good to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
The two shook hands as Bryson noticed a considerably brighter pep in the veteran's spirit.
Looks like you found some good news.
Well, I don't know if it's good news, but it's something. May I?
Go right ahead.
Liam spread a plethora of items and scribbles across the pastor's desk. He scrambled to organize them in a partially chronological order and began his presentation rather excitedly. He rambled on about his visit to Luana and the reality of the curse, about his findings under the rock, and the photographs he'd snapped. He intently described the strange anomalies that he'd discovered as proof of his theory. The paradoxes of nature, like the forever candle and the intelligent writings, and the lack of moisture in the rainforest soil. By the end of it all, he felt relieved, even more than excited now that someone else finally knew, someone who wouldn't think he was crazy.
Wow. Well, I can definitely say this is not what I was expecting you to come back with.
He could still see the doubt in the man's eyes.
Look, no matter what you might think, I'm not making this up. I'm a Marine. I didn't create some kind of fantasy world so that I'd have to avoid my grief. I can take it. But this is real. I swear to God. I mean, sorry. You know what I mean.
He watched as the clergyman paced in the room for several moments, thinking and appearing slightly overwhelmed.
Listen, Liam, I know a couple of close friends that could get you some help.
Don't call me crazy. I came here because I know what all of this means, not because I'm imagining things. This is real. And I came to you because I thought of all people who would believe me, you would be the one.
Bryson was visibly far from convinced.
I think this might be a little bit out of my league.
Yeah, well, it's out of mine too. So who do we call?
I don't even know. I mean, this isn't the kind of thing that people go to school for.
But you do believe me, don't you?
If I'm being honest, Liam, I don't really want to believe you. I spent more nights than I can count praying that hell wasn't real, that that was some kind of misunderstanding in the scriptures.
But if it is real, me and you, we've got a chance to do something about it right here, right now.
So you think this cave is some kind of passageway?
Into hell itself.
It just can't be. I mean, a candle that burns for a long time is one thing, but we're talking about an entirely different reality here.
All right, look. I found a dark cave below the side of a satanic execution table deep in the Amazon jungle. I found a giant iron door with a creepy, forever lit candle and ancient Italian writing. What else could this possibly be?
Bryson's rather emotional face changed to an uncomfortable expression of belief.
What does the writing say?
Okay, I translated it from an old Latin dialect. It's something along the lines of, there is only one key, the blood of the free.
Liam leaned in.
Now, does that sound like the front door to Kmart to you?
Look, I would help you, Liam. I really do. But we're meddling in God's affairs. He decides the fate of these sorts of things. It's just not meant for us.
Well, what if he has? What if God wanted my team to discover that ritual, not just for the little girl, but to lead us to the very fortress of the enemy itself?
But why would he do that? So that we could charge the fiery gates, just you and me, and rescue the damned?
Bryson's sarcastic comment was met with a smile from Liam's courageous face.
That's the general idea, yeah.
Bryson sighed and began pacing again, this time even more overwhelmed than before.
Look, man, I don't know what I'm doing without you. I'm in way over my head here. All I know is that when I signed up, Dan told me that he would go to hell and back before he left me behind. And I don't mean to do any less.
Bryson shook his head with skepticism, letting out a puff as he removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. He stepped over to his religious bookshelf and retrieved a stack of pages that would take a college professor 3 months to skim through. He slapped them down on the desk next to the replica of the crown of thorns, before plopping down in his chair and plinking in a number on his office phone.
Yeah, Betty, claim our schedule for the rest of the day. I gotta go over some stuff.
He hung up and turned some of the books to face Liam.
All right. This is everything I've got on the subject of hell. Legends, old doctrines, ancient teachings, folk tales. Well, let's get started.
Now we're talking.